every week in Australia. A living tide of sheep surges through farms and yards at a scale that is hard to even imagine. Up to 527,000 animals can move through this system in a single week, feeding distant cities you may never see. From far above, each animal is just a flicker of white, yet every single one is part of a vast global flow of meat and wool. Nearly 20,000 farms, these 70 million sheep turn grass and grain into something far more valuable than their simple shapes suggest. Behind these numbers are real stations and families, driving the same rough tracks day after day to keep their flocks alive and moving. In modern yards, every animal can be reduced to a few lines of data, yet each number still hides a living, breathing sheep out in the dust. Sheep are not just a commodity here. They are part of a long story that stretches from dusty colonial photos to ultramodern steel and data. From this ridge, the farmer does not see 70 million animals. He sees his own flock, his own risk, and his own small piece of the national story. Every massive weekly total begins with something simple. A single ewe lowering her head to fresh grass at first light. These mother sheep are the silent engines of the industry, turning pasture and grain into lambs that will one day feed and clothe distant strangers. Electronic tags and careful handling let farmers track each ewe's history, replacing guesswork with precise records before the lambs are even born. By timing breeding in spring or early fall, farmers aim for lambs to hit the ground when pastures are at their greenest and most abundant. Carefully chosen rams join selected ewe mobs, bringing genetics tuned for wool quality, growth, and resilience into the next generation of the flock. For 5 long months of gestation, ewes quietly carry the next generation under open skies, their bodies adjusting to the growing weight inside. Ultrasound scans confirm pregnancies and count lambs, letting farmers pinpoint which mothers need extra feed and attention before lambing begins. Their diets are tuned like an athlete's, with carefully measured protein, vitamins, and minerals designed to support strong pregnancies and healthy births. Regular weight checks show which ewes are thriving and which are falling behind, long before problems become visible in the paddock. Harsh weather can steal unborn lambs, so shelter, windbreaks, and timely moves between paddocks become a quiet form of insurance. When lambing starts, sleep becomes optional as farmers walk the sheds, answering silent emergencies one pen at a time through the dark hours. Within seconds of birth, instinct kicks in as the ewe cleans her lamb, forcing warmth, circulation, and those first critical breaths into motion. Every unsteady step in these first few minutes can decide whether a lamb survives in a world filled with cold, hunger, and predators. The first colostrum delivers a powerful hit of energy and immunity, acting as a natural vaccine for lambs in their most fragile hours. In these controlled pens, warmth, space, and constant checks can push lamb survival rates above 90%, far beyond what nature alone would allow. Ear tags turn anonymous newborns into trackable individuals, linking each lamb to its mother, its treatments, and its future movements. With a few quick bursts of safe scent, farmers can sort lambs by age, health status, or bloodline, and a glance across a swirling flock. Vaccinations and deworming shots build a biological shield around the flock, protecting young lambs from diseases they would rarely survive alone. Handling thousands of lambs means turning care into a repeatable routine, where the same small actions are performed hundreds of times a day. Fly strike begins almost invisibly, as blowflies lay eggs that hatch into flesh-eating maggots that can kill a sheep in just a few painful days. To reduce the risk of fly strike, many farms still dock lambs' tails with tight rubber rings, a brief moment of pain in exchange for long-term protection. Most lambs recover within minutes and return to their mothers, the sting of handling quickly replaced by warmth, milk, and familiar smells. Procedures like docking and castration are controversial, forcing farmers to weigh animal welfare against the brutal realities of parasites and injuries. Castration reduces violent fights over ewes later in life, making large flocks safer to handle and less likely to injure each other or their handlers. Once the most stressful procedures are over, lambs spend more time outside, building strength and confidence in the first open spaces they will ever know. Clean water and calm space help lambs recover from early procedures and keep growing steadily through their first fragile weeks. By the second or third week, lambs begin to explore hay and finely ground grains while still nursing regularly from their mothers. Inside these shared pens, farmers watch how quickly lambs adapt, using behavior to judge when the mob is ready for the next step. Once lambs reach around 26 to 33 pounds, they are ready to be fully weaned and shifted onto richer grazing and grain. Weaning is stressful, but done gradually. Lambs soon learn that troughs and paddocks can replace milk without slowing their growth. After weeks of careful care, survival rates climb above 90%, turning fragile newborns into sturdy young sheep ready for open paddocks. When the doors finally open, lambs spill into the light, trading straw floors and heat lamps for real sky, wind and soil beneath their feet. These first paddocks act like classrooms, teaching young sheep how to graze, explore, and move as a group without the chaos of endless country. Even as they taste independence, young lambs still lean on their mothers for comfort, warmth, and subtle lessons about where safety lies. As the lambs grow, the focus shifts from saving individual lives in sheds to managing thousands of animals across open paddocks and changing seasons. Rotating onto new paddocks keeps grass fresh, soil alive, and parasites in check, blending animal instinct with careful human planning. Before joining the main flocks, young sheep are drenched with bitter medicine that fights the hidden worms, draining weight and profit. Drenching gaze are repetitive and exhausting, but skipping them lets parasites quietly hollow out entire mobs from the inside. Stock dogs translate whistles and shouts into motion, stitching loose edges of the flock back together before chaos spreads across the paddock. On stations that stretch for tens of thousands of hectares, ATVs and bikes extend human reach, turning days of riding into a single morning's work. Drones now join the mustering crew, spotting stragglers and sick animals long before they vanish into gullies or thick scrub. Beyond the fences, wild dingoes still haunt the edges of sheep country, reminding farmers their flocks remain prey in this harsh landscape. Predator-proof fences and careful land management form invisible walls around profit, turning open rangeland into something closer to an outdoor factory. At first glance, it still looks like a timeless rural scene, sheep on grass under a big sky, doing what they have always done. Look closer and every detail, from feed schedules to mob sizes, is tuned for efficiency, scaling care up to tens of thousands of animals at once. Farmers juggle multiple mobs, rotating them through their landscape like pieces on a board to keep grass, animals, and finances in fragile balance. Beneath every hoofprint, soil health decides how many animals a paddock can carry and how long a farm can keep producing at this intensity. As the sun sinks, thousands of sheep across multiple paddocks settle into night, each mob placed where grass and rest will serve them best. Outside, the flocks rest. But inside the kitchen, planning never really stops, as schedules are updated week by week around the family table. On screens, the flock becomes lines of percentages and charts, but every point still traces back to real animals moving out in the paddocks. Before the trucks and factories, every processing statistic begins as a quiet morning like this, with animals waking under a chill sky. Soon, these young sheep will move from paddock to yard, joining hundreds of thousands of others in a tightly choreographed weekly flow. Drafting yards sort animals by age, weight, or destination, splitting what began as one unified flock into separate streams for wool, breeding, or meat. For the people who run these stations, scale is measured not just in numbers, but in tired muscles and long days spent inside rivers of wool. Viewed from above, this could almost be mistaken for a factory. But every moving piece here is alive and breathing, heading toward Australia's weekly total. In a few hours, some of these sheep will stand in shearing sheds or processing plants, the next links in a chain that never really stops. Convoys like these leave stations across Australia every week, carrying thousands of animals toward shearing floors, sale yards, and slaughterhouses. Back at the yards, only tracks remain, traces of how quickly living flocks can be converted into wool bales, carcasses, and shipping manifests. For now, the day's work with the sheep is done, but the system keeps turning in contracts, prices, and plans for the next load to leave. Tomorrow, the cycle begins again, as ewes graze, lambs grow, and hundreds of thousands of sheep march one step closer to Australia's weekly total.